You pour concrete, you weld steel, you follow the structural blueprint, and you get a bridge.
Right.
It's a completely binary outcome.
Exactly. The bridge either holds the weight of the cars or it collapses.
Yeah, and physical engineering gives us this very comforting expectation of, absolute precision.
We really gravitate toward that model because it's just so highly visible. I mean, it's mathematically sound, and you can point to the exact moment a project is physically complete.
But the moment you step into the world of digital product development, that beautiful, comforting logic just shatters.
Completely. Just falls apart.
You can build a digital product with flawless engineering. Like we're talking zero bugs, a lightning fast backend, a stunning user interface. And despite all of that technical perfection, the product can still just completely fail to hit the mark in the market.
Right. It's the equivalent of building a structurally flawless gold-plated bridge that absolutely no one wants to cross.
Welcome to this deep dive, learner. Today, our mission is to figure out exactly why beautiful engineering just isn't enough, why so many well-designed products still fail, and, more importantly, how to actually build things that last.
And to decode this, we're looking at a highly relevant piece of source material from December 2025. It's written by Tobias Reidenhag, who's the head of design at Intunio.
And the piece is titled Strategy Before Solution: Why Strong Products Start with the Right Choices.
Right.
So whether you're managing a massive tech platform, leading a cross-functional team, or just, trying to untangle a highly complex project, this is going to fundamentally reframe how you operate.
Okay, let's unpack this, because Reidenhag starts with an observation that really sets the stage perfectly.
He does. He points out that clients almost never come to Intunio asking for strategy as a standalone deliverable.
Yeah, nobody walks into a product agency and says, please sell me a strategy.
No, never. They walk in with a mandate to build a solution, they have deadlines, they have intense stakeholder pressure, and they just want to see working code and interfaces. They want the bridge built. The demand is always for functionality and, long-term durability.
But Intunio has identified this recurring pattern. Around every proposed solution, there's just a massive, lingering cloud of unclarified questions.
Like questions regarding the actual users?
Exactly. The users, the overarching business goals, and the really ruthless priorities required to actually ship a product.
And if those foundational questions aren't resolved, even the absolute most elite engineering and design teams are just going to hit a wall.
Because they're optimizing a product for an undefined target. It's basically guesswork.
So we need to define what Intunio actually means by strategy, because they completely strip away all the corporate fluff here.
Thank goodness for that. In their methodology, strategy is definitely not a lofty vision statement.
Right. It's not some ambitious paragraph on a slide deck meant to inspire the board of directors.
No, they define strategy as making a severely limited number of explicit choices.
Yeah.
That is the entire foundational premise. It is entirely about establishing constraints.
And Reidenhag insists that before a team gets, completely lost in the weeds of future roadmaps, they have to answer a few highly specific questions.
Yes. First, which problems actually matter most right now?
Okay.
Second, which specific users are we prioritizing? And third, and this is the hard one, what must this product be exceptionally good at, even if that means other features have to wait?
Thinking about this, I realize strategy isn't, it's not the motivational poster on the office wall. It's actually more like the bouncer at a highly exclusive club.
Oh, I like that. The bouncer.
Yeah, it's entirely about who and what you do not let through the door. Because, if the bouncer lets everyone in, the club hits overcapacity, the fire code gets violated, the bartender can't keep up, and the party is ruined for everyone.
Yeah, the system just breaks.
Exactly. The actual value of the experience inside the club is defined by who the bouncer forces to stay out on the sidewalk.
Because the bouncer protects the integrity of the core experience. Without that ruthless filter, like you said, the system collapses under its own weight.
But let me push back on this a little bit, because that sounds incredibly clean in a vacuum.
Sure.
It's super easy to sit in a pristine meeting room and declare what a product should do. But deciding which users not to prioritize is honestly terrifying for a business.
It really is.
If I'm running a company, my mandate is growth. Telling a massive segment of potential users, no, we are not building for you, that feels like professional suicide. It feels like leaving money on the table.
What's fascinating here is that the terror of leaving money on the table is the precise mechanism that creates bloated, failing products.
Oh, wait, really? The fear of losing out is what kills it.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
When leadership refuses to make those harsh, explicit choices about who they are not prioritizing, they don't actually capture the entire market.
Right, they just water it down.
Exactly. They create a product that is aggressively mediocre for everybody and essential for absolutely nobody.
Because the interface is trying to serve, say, a teenager looking for quick entertainment and a corporate accountant looking for deep data analytics at the exact same time.
You end up with a Swiss Army knife where none of the blades actually cut.
That is such a good way to put it.
And Reidenhag notes that when you finally force these choices, when you explicitly state who is not getting past your bouncer, the entire nature of the development work shifts.
It stops being a debate about feelings.
Right. It fundamentally moves project discussions away from subjective opinions and anchors them to a very clear direction.
Let's look at a concrete example of that shift. Let's say a team is sitting in a room arguing about features.
Okay, so if you haven't defined the core user, any feature request is just an opinion floating in space.
Like, one executive says, I think we need an AI chat integration.
And the developer chimes in, well, I think we need to override the back end for custom plugins.
And without a strategic filter, whoever argues the loudest or whoever has the most seniority just wins by default.
Exactly. But once you've established the direction, once you say, this product must be the fastest, simplest tool for novice users who are highly intimidated by technology, you instantly have an objective filter.
The custom plugin idea gets thrown out immediately.
Right out the window.
Yeah.
And the AI chat only stays if it objectively reduces complexity for that novice.
Decisions become virtually frictionless because there's a shared, measurable understanding of the actual destination.
Precisely.
But here's the catch with my bouncer analogy. The bouncer can't just enforce arbitrary rules at the door. The people they let into the club have to actually buy drinks, or the venue just goes bankrupt.
That's a very good point.
To know who gets through the door, you have to know how the venue makes its money. Your product strategy doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has to physically drive the mechanics of your business model.
And this brings us to the reality of how projects actually operate out there in the wild. Because strategic work is almost never about starting from a blank whiteboard on day one.
No one has that luxury. There's always, legacy code, stakeholder politics, or some massive initiative that was greenlit 6 months ago.
Intunio specifically notes this. In most projects, there's already momentum. People are already moving, designing, and coding.
So you can't just yell stop and start from scratch.
No, the strategic work is not about halting everything, burning it to the ground, and starting over. It's really about bringing clarity to the messy reality of work that's already in progress.
Which requires understanding how different user groups meaningfully differ and what role the product actually plays within a larger pre-existing ecosystem.
Exactly.
Let's walk through how that connection between user experience and business survival actually plays out. Because it is so easy to get an assignment, immediately open up Figma or a code editor, and just start building, completely bypassing the business logic.
Oh, happens every day.
Right. But if an Intunio client is already halfway through building an app, or if you, the learner listening with us right now, are deep into a major project at work, wouldn't stopping to audit the business model just feel like unnecessary friction?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is not friction. It is basic survival. Intunio's philosophy argues that business strategy and product design are fundamentally inseparable.
So they aren't two different phases.
Not at all. A digital business model is not a spreadsheet. It's a series of required user behaviors. It relies on smooth, intuitive flows.
Walk us through a scenario where a failure in design literally breaks the business model.
Okay, imagine an enterprise software platform that relies on a freemium model.
Very common.
Right. The entire business strategy hinges on getting free users to upgrade to a paid tier after, say, a 14-day trial. And the executives have built their revenue projections on a 5% conversion rate.
Okay, making sense so far.
But if the user interface makes the actual value of those premium features confusing, or if the checkout flow requires navigating through 4 buried submenus.
Then the user just gets frustrated and abandons the process entirely.
Exactly. The design becomes a literal bottleneck for the revenue.
Wow. So the strategy was perfectly sound on paper, but the execution strangled it.
The interface dictates whether the business actually makes money. You cannot understand the true value a product creates without looking at the business goals and the user flow simultaneously.
So when Intunio brings these strategic questions into a project that's already underway, it's really a concurrent effort.
Yes. Strategy isn't a toll booth that stops production. It takes shape organically as the team's understanding of the users, the technical constraints, and the business goals deepen together.
Well, if the flow of the user experience is literally what makes or breaks the business model, then treating design merely as the paint job applied at the end of the engineering phase is a massive strategic failure.
Treating design as mere aesthetics is one of the most expensive mistakes a company can possibly make.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We traditionally think of strategy as the input, like the document handed down from leadership.
The famous 50-page PDF.
Exactly. And design is the output, the visual representation of that document. But Intunio completely flips the script on this.
They do.
They propose using design as the primary tool to actually figure out the strategy.
For Intunio, design is an exploratory mechanism. They use sketches, concepts, and early prototypes not to dictate final aesthetics, but to visualize the ripple effects of different strategic choices across the whole ecosystem.
So if they're using design to find the strategy, I'm imagining them literally drawing two completely different conflicting versions of an app side by side to see which one breaks first under the weight of reality.
That is exactly what Tobias Reitenhag describes in the piece. They mock up different directions to expose the hidden costs of abstract decisions.
Can you give an example of one of those trade-offs?
Sure. For instance, they will visualize a specific trade-off like, what happens if we prioritize ultimate simplicity over deep flexibility?
Let's break down the mechanics of that. If you prioritize simplicity, you might design an interface with massive typography and a single primary call to action button.
Very clean.
Very clean. But the moment you draw that, you realize you've completely stripped away the advanced filtering options that your heavy-duty enterprise clients actually rely on.
Exactly. By drawing both versions, the cost of the choice is no longer theoretical. You can literally see the enterprise client's workflow just disappear in the simple version.
It makes the loss tangible.
It really does. Another critical trade-off they visualize is, how does the experience change if we design primarily for expert users versus novices?
And those two groups require completely different cognitive loads.
Entirely different.
Like, an expert wants a dashboard dense with data. They want every variable, every toggle on a single screen so they don't have to click through menus. It's highly efficient for them.
But if you put that exact same dense, complex dashboard in front of a novice,
their cognitive load just maxes out.
Oh.
They are totally paralyzed by choices, and they abandon the software. A novice needs progressive disclosure. They need to be walked through the process one simple step at a time.
And you cannot easily resolve that conflict in a shared Google Doc. People will read the word efficient and interpret it in wildly different ways.
Oh, absolutely.
But when you put the two contrasting prototypes on a screen, the ambiguity just vanishes.
They also explore technical constraints visually, right?
Yes. If the engineering team says a complex database query will take 4 seconds to load, how do we design the front end to make that friction feel acceptable?
Like, do we use skeleton loaders? Do we distract the user with a cool animation?
Exactly. It brings the back-end realities to the front-end experience.
You know, it's like trying on clothes rather than just reading your body measurements on a spreadsheet.
How so?
Well, you can have a spreadsheet that says a size 42 jacket with a specific taper should mathematically fit your dimensions. That spreadsheet is your traditional strategy,
Right.
but you don't actually know if the strategy fits the reality of your shoulders until you physically put the jacket on and look in the mirror. You have to see it to know if it restricts your movement.
That is a perfect analogy. That visual feedback loop is absolutely crucial. When alternatives are visualized, when the team is actually looking at the different prototypes, it forces reality onto the strategy.
It gets everybody on the same page.
It becomes dramatically easier for cross-functional teams to reason together.
Right.
You aren't arguing over bullet points. You're pointing at a user flow and realizing, wow, if we require this many steps, our core demographic is going to bounce.
In this framework, strategy transforms from a static PDF sitting in a shared folder into something you actively manipulate and stress test through visual design.
It becomes a living mechanism for alignment. It allows teams to make hard choices with actual confidence, rather than just blind hope.
Okay, I have to stop here because there is a massive paradox glaring at us.
Uh-oh, what's the paradox?
Think about the sequence of what we just discussed. If you are doing design work, creating sketches, building wireframes, mocking up complex interfaces to figure out what your strategy should be, doesn't that directly violate the title of the article?
How so?
The piece is literally called Strategy Before Solution, but Reidenhag is explicitly saying that strategy evolves in parallel with design and development. Why call it strategy before solution if you're actively doing solution-level work to figure out the strategy?
That's fair.
And beyond just the semantics, aren't you just burning 2 weeks of a designer's time creating throwaway sketches?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm paying an agency, I don't want to pay them to explore if I just need an app.
This raises an important question, and it really gets to the very core of why so many digital projects just hemorrhage money.
Okay.
It feels like a paradox if you view product development as a strictly linear chronological timeline. But Reidenhag is offering a vital nuance here.
Which is?
When he says strategy before solution, he does not mean chronologically finishing 100% of your strategic thinking before anyone is allowed to open a design program.
So the sketches and wireframes are just tools for digging up the foundation.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It is about establishing a rock-solid direction before committing to the final coded build.
Ah, the final code.
Right. To your point about wasting a designer's time,
Mhm.
creating rapid, throwaway Figma sketches feels like a waste, only until you compare it to the alternative.
Which is what?
The alternative is spending 6 months paying an entire engineering team to write complex back-end code for a product, launching it, and then watching the company fail because the core assumptions were completely wrong.
Yeah, throwing away a sketch is cheap. Throwing away a coded database is catastrophic.
Precisely. Early visual design isn't about creating final, polished assets. It's a mechanism for cheap, fast learning.
That makes total sense.
What matters is not when the strategic choices are finalized on a calendar, but that the core direction becomes absolutely clear before the heavy, expensive lifting begins. Intunio's ultimate takeaway is that this approach generates immense speed and resilience.
Because once that direction is locked in, even if it took, a few weeks of visual experimentation to find it, the engineering team isn't second-guessing every single line of code.
Exactly. They aren't constantly pausing to ask, wait, is this feature for the expert or the novice?
The velocity of the team drastically increases. They can adjust their course when new technical insights emerge, and they can do so while maintaining a coherent product.
The core choices, the bouncer at the door, remain steady, acting as a support system rather than just a starting pistol.
The ultimate value here is recognizing that strong products aren't just isolated brainstorms or quick fixes. They certainly aren't just beautifully written code.
No, not at all.
They're a series of deliberate, resilient choices that hold together under the pressure of the real world. So, doing strategy before solution, using visual tools to find your direction, it doesn't slow things down. It ensures you're moving toward a destination that actually matters.
It guarantees that when you finally build that flawlessly engineered bridge, it connects to a road people actually want to travel.
I love that. Let's recap this journey because we have covered a massive paradigm shift today.
We really have.
We started by dismantling the misconception of strategy. We moved away from the corporate fluff and realized true strategy is a series of incredibly hard, explicit choices about who and what we are excluding. It's the bouncer at the door. From there, we examined how those choices are intimately tied to the survival of the business model, proving that you cannot separate the user's interface flow from the company's revenue flow.
They are one and the same.
And finally, we uncovered the mechanism to figure out those hard choices, using early visual design and prototyping to map the strategy, test the trade-offs, and find the direction before writing a single line of final code.
Beautifully summarized.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? Whether you are building a complex SaaS platform, launching a small business, or just trying to organize a sprawling workflow for your team, the mandate is the same.
It is.
Before you fully commit to the expensive execution phase, you have to stop and ask yourself, have we made explicit choices about what we are not prioritizing? If you haven't decided what you are willing to let go of, you don't have a strategy yet, you just have a wish list.
And I'll leave you with one final thought to mull over, applying this Intunio method outside the realm of software. We've talked about using low-fidelity design to test business choices, but think about your own life.
Oh, that's an interesting pivot.
If visualizing alternatives through early, cheap prototypes is the absolute best way to test a product strategy before fully building it, how might we prototype our major life or career choices before fully committing to them?
Wow.
How do you create a low-risk sketch of a major career pivot or a cross-country move so you can clearly see the real-world trade-offs before you pour the concrete?
That is a fantastic question to end on because whether it is a digital product or your own life, the best solutions always start with making the right choices. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.